Hey everyone, today I'm back with another scary story that will give you chills. This one's about a real event that's as creepy as it gets. So sit tight, turn off the lights, let's dive into this creepy story. This story kind of creeps me out even to this day, but I have a pretty good one. I lived in Mesa, Arizona when I was 10 years old. We lived in a rough area, but I was just a kid completely ignorant to the dangers of the world. I was walking back home from my friend's house, and my mother wanted me home by 9, and I'd always start walking back at around 8:40 to make sure I wasn't late. And it's only like a couple blocks from my house, so it wasn't a super long distance. It was around the time of year when the sun would set at 5:30 and be dark well before 7 p.m. So it was very much nighttime. As I'm walking, I hear a woman calling my name. I turn to look and see it was one of my mom's friends, but she didn't know her too well. However, I just saw that she was familiar and won't say a name. But I turned around and said hello and smiled. She walked up to me and told me my mom had called her and asked her to come get me and ride me back because something happened at my house. She said it was an emergency and that I needed to go with her and her husband, whom my family was also familiar with. I was only about 5 minutes from my house, but I was told it was an emergency, and I agreed to go with her. As I'm walking, I get this weird feeling in my gut, and this shaking in my legs that I now today realize was my instincts being on high alert. I stopped for a minute and asked if we could call my mom, and she said my mother was in the hospital right now and that I need to hurry. Right as we were opening the door to the car, I hear my mother shout my name as loud as she can, and I turned on a dime and quickly walked towards my mom. My mom asked what's going on, and the woman replies and says that she was just giving me a ride home because she saw me. Was not the story she gave me, so I told my mother what she told me and asked what was going on. My mom just looked at me, and she could always tell when I'm lying versus when I'm telling the truth. The woman then goes to interrupt me, likely to lie, and my mom cuts her off and just stared back at her with the most shocked look ever, and these words still send shivers down my spine. She says in the most shocked voice ever, "You were trying to take my son." And the husband looks out the window, hurrying his wife in the car, and as I looked back towards him, I can see a syringe on the dashboard leaning against the windshield that he grabs right as I see it. She gets in the car because at that point my mom was ready to kill her and reached into her purse because she keeps a pocket knife. But they drove away, and right after they did, my mom looked at me and just burst into tears saying, "I'm almost lost you." My mom knew full well what was happening, and I was still too shaken to even say anything and just hugged her back, and we went home. I was still in denial, and to cope, I would convince myself that maybe I wasn't in any danger. She gets in the car because at that point my mom was ready to kill her and reached into her purse because she keeps a pocket knife. But they drove away, and right after they did, my mom looked at me and just burst into tears saying, "I'm almost lost you." My mom knew full well what was happening, and I was still too shaken to even say anything and just hugged her back, and we went home. I was still in denial, and to cope, I would convince myself that maybe I wasn't in any danger. I never liked talking about it because to this day, if I hadn't stopped for those 10 seconds to ask the woman to call my mom, I don't know where I'd be or if I'd even be alive right now making this comment. And while it may seem like something that would have easily been forgotten, it was never the case for me. I haven't even told my closest friends this story, but I might sometime soon. I asked my mom what happened that night, why she came looking for me. She described the same feeling I remembered feeling moments before I was almost abducted, just a lot sooner than I did, and just had the instinct that I was in danger. I'm not usually a lucky person. It seems the odds are always against me, but I always remember how lucky I was that night, that my mom decided to listen to her instincts when I didn't. I've never ignored my instincts since, and every night after that, when I finally did decide to leave my house, my mom would walk with me all the way up until I turned 13 to come back to live with my dad. And that to date is the scariest thing I think I've ever experienced. It's some shit you only hear of on the news and nobody ever assumed it will happen to them. But my life was a mere 20 seconds from being completely different.